What's going on, guys? My name is Wade with Tech Daily, and in this video, we are checking out the new Motorola Moto G Stylus 5G. Slicing through the sticker and pulling off the lid, the first thing we get is the phone itself. Next up, inside this small cardboard packet is your SIM ejector tool, as well as a couple of sheets of paperwork and instructions to help you learn about your new phone. And last but not least, Motorola still does provide you with some charging accessories, a USB-A to USB-C cable, and a rather underpowered 10-watt wall brick. But hey, at least they're both still included with the phone. So with all that stuff out of the way, here is the new Moto G Stylus 5G once again. You can see I got mine in this Seafoam green color. I haven't seen many other people opt for this. It's pretty unique. The other color option is a traditional steel blue, which we've had before. The Moto G Stylus 5G is a 6.8-inch device. That's the screen size corner to corner, and you get nearly an 86% screen to body ratio. Motorola opted to bring back the center hole punch camera cutout up top, and you have relatively slim, albeit still noticeable bezels all around with a decent bottom chin. And this is one of those phones that's more tall than anything else, really. The toughest part is just stretching your finger to the top edge of the display. But if you've had any other Moto device released in the past couple of years, you're probably used to this tall aspect ratio. It's a big phone overall, but I know a lot of people do appreciate having all of that screen real estate. Around back, like I mentioned, a very unique Seafoam green colorway. The materials here are mostly plastic. It looks nice though, sort of changes colors in the right light. The sides and edges have a combination matte finish with a machined-like polished detail, slightly curved edge on the back, totally flat front screen. All in all, a nice looking design familiar to Motorola, but very much a budget build. Though we do get what Motorola calls their water repellent certification for some added protection. Taking a look around at everything else, on the left side, dual SIM and SD card tray. On the right, familiar volume button sitting just above the power button, which also doubles as your fingerprint sensor. At the bottom, the headphone jack is still there. You have the USB-C port in the middle, single speaker setup, and the whole point of this phone, the built-in stylus, which I'll demo in just a second. Center hole punch selfie camera, like I mentioned, earpiece slit above that, and around back, a triple lens camera setup, which I'll also dive deeper with in a bit. So let's now talk about that stylus. And if you just want the TLDR, it's essentially the same setup and same software experience we got not only on the non-5G Moto G stylus from earlier in the year, but also the last few Moto G styluses from the last few years. Down at the bottom, you get the same built-in retractable stylus that pops in and out with the click of its top. It's convenient, it's familiar, and removing it will automatically bring up Motorola's Stylus shortcut menu. The stylus itself is once again just a simple metal pointer tool. This one is actually thicker and heavier than the non-5G phone. Kind of weird, but aside from that, it's not smart, there's no buttons, it's not in any way connected to the device. It's just a simple metal stick with a soft rubber blunt tip that basically acts like an extension of your finger. You can of course use it to tap, touch, and swipe your way through the phone and do anything else your thumb might do. I know a lot of people actually like doing this, especially if you want your taps and touches to be a little more precise if you're aiming for smaller items on screen. But Motorola also offers a half dozen or so other apps and features that coincide specifically with this stylus. You once again have the same Moto Notes app for writing and drawing all kinds of notes. You've got a coloring book to help pass the time, I suppose. Shortcut to the camera app for video, a screen recorder, which allows you to capture anything you do on your phone and save it as a video. And you can also customize the shortcut menu yourself to add whatever apps you want easy access to. They can be Moto apps, third-party apps, whatever you want. And you can also use the stylus with some of those third-party apps too, like Google's Keep Notes, for example. Not only is this the same software and app setup that we've seen before, it's also the same writing experience. In utilizing the stylus, you'll continue to experience that bit of a delay or lag with your lines and letters. There's a gap between the pen tip and your drawing, and that's because the stylus isn't really made for the phone, and the phone isn't specifically made for the stylus. There's no connectedness between them like an Apple Pencil or Samsung's S22 Ultra, so you still have the same rudimentary drawing experience we've had on these phones for years. Overall, I haven't come across any noticeable improvements to the stylus experience on this new Moto G Stylus 5G compared to, like I said, any other Moto phone from the last few years, which is a bit of a shame. But at the same time, this is still one of the only affordable stylus smartphones on the market now. So if you like this setup and you like the stylus, this is what you get. So we know the basic design of this phone is the same and the stylus experience is unchanged, but what are the actual differences between this 5G Moto G stylus and the 4G model from earlier in the year? Well, it really boils down to two main things. the display, and the internal specs. Starting with the display, the 6.8-inch screen on this phone is the same IPS LCD panel as before, with the same resolution, 2460 by 1080 at about 395 pixels per inch. The difference is that this Moto Stylus 5G gets a 120 Hz adaptive refresh rate display, while the 4G phone had a 90 Hz display. So while the viewing experience remains relatively unchanged, it's sharp for sure at this size, somewhat colorful for an LCD panel, and bright enough for most content. The big main improvement is how responsive the screen will feel with every tap, touch, and swipe. I personally do notice a difference between 90 Hz and 120 Hz nowadays in using all these different phones, and this feature really is what you'll find on a flagship device. So that's a big plus. As a whole, this is a big screen that's great for content consumption, and I know a lot of people will appreciate it. When it comes to the internal specs, this Stylus 5G is powered by the Snapdragon 695 5G chipset. The 4G Stylus had the MediaTek Helio G88 inside, and you also get 8 gigs of RAM here instead of 6. Here are the Geekbench scores for your reference, but in simple terms, this should mean that the Moto G Stylus 5G is 30 to 40% more capable across the board. On the one hand, that's great to see. This phone is going to be faster, more powerful, and should be able to handle even more of the complex stuff. Games, multitasking, graphics-heavy apps. On top of that, this phone also does get the Android 12 update, so that helps make things feel fresh, new, and a little snappier. Also powering this phone is a pretty large 5,000 milliamp battery. That's on par with the previous G Stylus, and that's a beefy battery even for a phone this big. Motorola advertises this device as a 2-day smartphone, and perhaps some lighter users could stretch it out to that. In most cases though, for me, these Moto devices have been like a day and a half smartphone, if that, and with this phone shipping with just that 10-watt charging brick, you can expect quite a few hours plugged in when you finally run out of juice. Finally, when it comes to the cameras, this is pretty straightforward actually. You just get the same specs and features on this 5G Stylus as you did with the 4G phone. So around back, there's the 50 megapixel f1.9 aperture main lens, 8 megapixel ultra wide camera, and 2 megapixel depth sensor. Selfie camera also appears to be the same. It's a 16 megapixel shooter, and this kind of surprised me honestly. I sort of expected Motorola to differentiate the 4G and 5G phones with some sort of camera setup difference, but like I said, everything seems to be the same. Honestly though, I can't complain too much because Motorola does offer one of the widest selections of shooting modes and features I've come across. I don't know that they've put as much time, effort, and emphasis on camera tech and software as Samsung or Apple has these past couple of years, but everything from night mode to wide selfie shots to dual lens capture, high megapixel mode, pro controls, it's all here. Just no 4K video still, which is probably the only real omission. And taking a couple quick sample pics out of the box, I do like what I see. Like I said, Motorola hasn't necessarily been a leader in camera tech in recent years, but they quietly have made some improvements to give you good-looking, balanced shots with enough detail to work with. And I think enough features as well for the everyday user to appreciate, and maybe even a little more that they won't ever use. The images as a whole are good, but you can tell they aren't flagship quality. In the end though, a decent all-around camera setup for a phone like this. Hopefully you guys did enjoy this video though, and I'll see you guys later.